All right. So, hello everyone. Thanks for being here for the second sessions of the Marvel Snap Zone group coaching. Today, we're obviously gonna focus on the metagame and everything that's happened since the changes. Last Friday was a lot about like trying to make sense into a brand new metagame. Now there are a little bit more like tendencies, decks have emerged, so we have a better idea of what the metagame looks like. And so what we're gonna do today is try to understand how decks are working and trying to break them down. So the goal of today is going to be to understand the deck so we can either play it better because it's a really good deck and we want to play the best decks, or to counter it, like try to break it down, understand its basic patterns, and see if there's things we can pick up, patterns we can break, cards we could specifically counter, this kind of things. So the first part is basically going to be a lecture. There's not a lot of material because I want to do a lot of gameplay. So let's get into it. Is this going to work? Obviously. Ooh. Is this working? Looks like it's working, but it looks off. Oh wait, you guys don't have my screen. You're just listening right now. That should be much better. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That was an important part to catch. Alright, so how do we build a deck? So basically a deck in almost every card game I've played, and most of those I've seen also in the past, we can break down a deck into three main parts, which is the core of the deck, which represents its idea, represents what the deck is trying to do, and usually the cards we are never going to touch or going to touch when there are several ways to accomplish the same goal, and so we're going to adapt depending on sometimes the metagame, but also sometimes just our preferences of getting a plan on the rails. Then we have the flex, which is just short for flexible, which are the flexible cards. Their goal is to support our idea. Once again, there are usually a lot of ways to support an idea, especially in a game like Marvel Snap, where we only have 12 cards to do it. So our goal here is just to make our idea better with it. And lastly, we have the tech cards, which are not based on our deck, but are based on our opponent and are gonna help us edge certain matchups. So this is a simple way to sum it up. The core cards are based around the idea, and usually our deck doesn't work if we don't have those cards in it. The flexible cards are the cards that are going to get our idea better, so they're either going to be direct support to the core cards, or they can be cards which are going to give a new direction to our idea, or are going to protect our idea, this kind of cards. And lastly, the technical cards, and here the important part are the opponents. There are cards that makes absolutely no sense in a deck, but because there's a super popular opponent running around in the metagame, there are cards that are incredible to run. For example, in the previous metagame, every single deck was running Shang-Chi, because if you didn't have Shang-Chi, you barely had a shot against Lockjaw. Alright, so let's have a few examples. So, the thing that most people miss when we're building a deck, or that is a little bit overlooked, is the fact that we're not always going from core to flex to tech. Like, it's not necessarily a pyramid that is built always the same way. Sometimes you're going to have an idea, and then you're going to include a flexible card, and that flexible card is going to change the way you're going to accomplish your idea. For example, ever since Iron Lad hit the game, there's a deck called Iron Patriot, which existed. And suddenly, the cards that Patriot is going to buff are no longer Shocker, Cyclops, The Thing, and that kind of cards. Instead, they have become Mr. Sinister, Brood, which are cards which are summoning non-ability cards, but at the same time, Iron Lad can copy their ability, and so we can duplicate Iron Lad with it. So here we had the core, which we thought was never gonna change. Like for most people, I mean, a Patriot deck was Wasp, Patriot, Misty, Shocker, Cyclops, etc. And we never thought that that deck would ever change because we only have so many vanilla cards in the game. And then Iron Lad showed up, and we had to rethink our core. And now, actually, like the core of a Patriot deck is basically just Patriot, Blue Marvel, and that's about it. Because then you have two Patriot decks depending on how you want to build it. And the same way, technical cards can push you to rethink part of your flexible cards. For example, if you're running Shang-Chi and Enchantress, you might want to run Zabu as well in your deck, because suddenly you have two forecast cards, and so let's say you have one or maybe two already, suddenly Zabu becomes extremely good. So it's important when we build a deck that we constantly check the logic between the different steps of building our deck, but not just from core to flex to tech. It can also go the other way, like core to flex, back to core, then moving on to text, back to flex, back to core, and back, like making sure like all the different steps are remaining logical from one another every time we're adding a card. So that was the theory part. I wanted to keep it as short as possible because I think these are concepts that we touched a little bit last week and it felt like people already knew them. Are there questions or things that you want me to elaborate before we get into like actually breaking down a deck of the current metagame?
It's possible you're going to talk about this, but if you've got your core basically set, how do you make trade-offs between the tech and the flex? You know, adding one more counter card versus no, I need to boost uh, my own point development. And I get that in some sense, like, well, if you're only missing a match by a couple points each time, then you want flex. If you're getting wiped out completely, maybe you want tech. But beyond that, with only 12 cards to play with, how do you find that perfect balance?
So to me, the big factor to consider is the metagame. The more matchups that are existing, the more you're going to go to your flex because it's hard to anticipate your next opponent when there's a large variety of it. And the less possible opponents, the more you're going to go to the tech cards because the more chances these cards are going to be impactful. Let's take an example. Previous metagame, if you had to get tech against Bounce or Lockjaw, you were pretty sure you're going to hit it very, very regularly. Right now, we're just 1 week after the patch. Unless you have a tech against Lockdown, it's really hard to know what you're going to face. Like, there's Destroy, there's Ella Tribunal, which is like a mix of Unreveal and Ongoing. There's a bit of Lockjaw, there's a bit of Sarah, there's a bit of Darkhawk. So it's a little bit of what we talked last week. If you manage to group certain opponents and make it that a tech card is going to impact enough of your opponents, then you're probably going to go to the tech. If you can't, then you're probably going to invest into your general power and find a card that's just going to impact all your matchups, even if it's going to impact less than a tech card in certain matchups. So it's always about, like, I guess, percentages and your own read of the game. Just go for the card that you think statistically is going to reward you the most, like most of the time.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay, are there any other questions before we get into the practical example? I'll take that as a no. Alright, is everyone familiar with Thanos Control, or do I need to show a list or explain what the deck is before we get into it?
I'm familiar with it.
Okay. So, what's the idea behind Thanos Control? The base idea is pretty simple. We want to use the Time Stone so we can Professor X on turn 4, and because we have Professor X on turn 4, Spider-Man on turn 5 is absolutely stupidly strong. So that's the basic of the deck. Like, that's the idea. If I had to sum up Thanos Control in one sentence, that's how I would sum it up. Like, do lockdown faster so you block your opponent better or faster. And then the idea can be broken down into two core ideas, which is we want to secure a lane early through blocking the opposing play. So that's the work of Professor X. And then, because we had Professor X on turn 4, we freed up 2 turns to focus on the second lane, which usually one turn is Spider-Man and the second turn are points. So this gives me my core, and usually I try to get the core as small as possible. In reality right now, it's going to be extremely hard to not find a Thanos deck with Jeff in it. It's going to be extremely hard to find a Thanos deck with Dino or Blue Marvel in it. I consider these cards flex because I tend to try and be as flexible as possible when I build my decks, and I really try to focus on having as little cards as possible in the core, which means my game plan is much more flexible. But if at first you want to have a lot of cards in your core because it's reassuring in a way, it's completely fine. So now that I have my core, I have to make up my different flex packages. And this is usually the part where clunky deck happens, and people tend to just judge the deck like, oh, it's not working, so it must be a bad deck. The reality is there is a ton of flex packages for a ton of decks. And when we have 12 cards, it takes a lot of time to test them all. Because let's say, so my core is just 3 cards. So I have 9 cards free in my deck. But the thing is, because I have such a small core, I can support it in a wide variety of ways. I can support it directly. So Psylocke is basically a second time stone. So I don't need to explain why this is support. It's literally a second copy of a card that I want in my core. Storm is another lockdown idea. So it's a mini Prophex or a mini Spider-Man in a way. And then Jubilee and Iron Lad are ways to, similarly to Time Stone or similar to Psylocke, get Prophex earlier, get Spider-Man earlier, and that kind of thing. So usually this kind of flex package is going to be the first one that we test because it's the easiest one to kind of figure out, because it's the one that is directly related to our idea. Like, it doesn't solve the problems of the idea. That's going to be the role of other flex packages, but it's easy to see it. It's easy to think about it because it goes in the exact same direction. Then the second package that we could have, and that's usually the flex package that you're going to find in every single deck in the game, points. Because a deck that doesn't score points usually doesn't win many games. So the important part is how to score points regarding my idea. And in this specific core, because I have Professor X, cards which are going to be able to impact lanes which are locked are going to be particularly important. So Jeff is in every single deck of Thanos Control right now. Blue Marvel is in every single deck as well. Claw is in, I think, at least 90% of them. But we could have thought about Mr. Fantastic, which is basically a mini Claw. I could have included Nebula in there, because Nebula grows after Prophex because the opponent can't play. Could have included Sunspot, because that gives me the possibility to pass my turn, and so it's going to up the lane of Professor X. So here, this flex package is usually the one that we need to think about the most, and this is probably where we're going to miss cards. It's really easy to miss cards when it comes to points, because we usually think about the cards that are going to score the most points, but it's hard to see the flexible points. Like, it's hard to see the sneaky cards that are not going to represent as many points, but might be able to do them in more situation, or that are going to be able to provide points in a different way than the other ways that we already have in the deck, that kind of thing. So usually this is probably the flexible package I spend the most time on, because Marvel Snap is a game where you win through scoring points. So that's also usually the kind of cards we have the most to test, because literally like every card can score points in a way. Then we have another flexible package, which is different ways to limit our opponent's ability to play. Storm, Professor X, and Spider-Man limit everyone. Like, they don't make any distinction. You can't play here. But let's say the metagame is destroy heavy, or the metagame is based on a lot of electro decks. I could imagine armor. Armor basically tells a lot of destroy decks, well, that lane is closed for you. Cosmo is the same way for on reveal, where it's saying like there's at least 2/3 of your decks that you can play on this lane. If Electro Ramp or Galactus, for example, was extremely popular, we could have Jean Grey because suddenly we force them to play where we want, and that's another way to limit them. So here, same concept, I'm taking my core idea and I'm just going to the next best thing. Like, I can't limit everyone because I already did it in my core, and then I did it in the direct support with Storm. So I'm just going to take the next best thing. I'm going to annoy some people, although it's not everyone. And then the last thing is the second part of my idea, which was I still have to win a second lane. So I'm just going to look at cards that are able to win a lane, not on their own, but it needs to be super impactful cards. And once again, like similarly to points, there usually are a lot of cards that can be worth a lot of points in that category. Like, I could have added Gamora, I could have added Infinite in a way. Like, if we're going Prophex on turn 4, I could pass 5 and play Infinite. Oh, wait, someone is trying to... So, etc., etc. So here, if I go back to my core, basically every single flex package can relate to either the first part of it, which is secure lane early, and that is going to be the direct support. That's going to be the other ways to limit the opponent's play. Or the second part, it frees up 2 turns to focus on the second lane. This are points that can help me win the first lane if it didn't go according to plan, and these are cards that are going to help me win the second lane if it actually went according to plan. Are there any questions about all this?
Yeah, quick question.
Of course.
So, when you're putting these cards in categories, are you thinking about, I guess I see Shang-Chi in the second ways to win a lane, and also something like Jeff that could be considered tech if you weren't locking down lanes yourself. Is it kind of just the context of your deck, of what you're going to consider tech slots and what you're going to consider flex slots?
Yes.
Okay.
Jeff is a tech against lockdown, but is a flex for lockdown. Because every lockdown deck wants to play Jeff. So it's not a tech. I'm not putting Jeff because of my opponents. I'm putting Jeff because it's a hell of a card in my deck. Basically, if your answer to the card is it makes sense in my deck, it's a flex. It makes sense to beat certain opponents, it's a tech. And this is why, for example, Shang-Chi is a flex here, while Shang-Chi is considered like the master of tech cards at this point in Marvel Snap. If we are battling on one lane only, let's say the situation, which is pretty classic with Thanos Control, I have my lane locked with Professor X. Because I focused on that lane, I'm likely behind on the other 2, or at least 1. And then comes turn 6. Most people, because that's how you win a lane, they're going to develop the max amount of points to win that lane. And if they develop the max amount of points, they have the max amount of chances to actually play a big card. So Shang-Chi isn't here because a specific opponent. It's here because it answers a very likely behavior from any kind of opponent. They have to win a lane, they're going to play their biggest card.
Thank you.
So someone feels like it's... Are they struggling to join us? Alright, and then last thing, of course, you probably noticed we are way above 12 cards at this point. Like, I got 3 here, I got 15 here, and honestly, I could have much more in many categories. Maybe not the direct support, but other ways to win the second lane I could name. 4 or 5 more cards. Here I could have named Goose. I could have named, I don't know, Mojo. People don't want to play 4 cards when there's Mojo on the lane. I could have named like a lot of cards. So here we're not actually building a deck. We're actually playing like Librarian, and we have our different sections, and we're just like putting the cards in the right sections. And then when we're going to build our deck, depending on what we want to do, which aspect of the deck we want to push, we're going to go to the right section. So at this point, I'm not even like building my deck. I'm just throwing possibilities. And then the last part are tech cards. And so here we have literally a billion. So we're going to separate tech cards into 2 categories. I don't think there's a name for it, so I am just going to call them hard tech cards and soft tech cards. Soft tech cards are cards that are not going to be extremely impactful, but they're going to work against a lot of opponents. Hard tech cards are cards that could win us the matchup alone, but usually are limited to a few opponents. If you can find a hard tech card that actually counters the whole metagame, congratulations, you probably won the lottery. Or at least you're going to beat the metagame until other people figure it out. So here, let's play a little game, and let's see which tech card works for each deck. So we're going to go up and down. Like, can everybody talk? I think, apart from Random Sort, who just joined us, I think everyone talked at some point. So I'm gonna say yes. So going from up to down, so that's going to be Phatomation, Not For Long, Random Sword, and then Silverman. Let's try to guess a deck that is weak to a specific deck card. So first up, what can Goose help against? Is the person not here? Well,
I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question.
So the goal is just, let's try to figure out against which decks we would like to play a tech, like said tech card. So we go first with Goose. So against which opponent would you play Goose in Tyrant's Control?
So against a ramp deck?
Could be okay against a ramp deck. That works. Probably you're gonna annoy them a lot. Like, if you can guess where they're gonna play their Black Panther, you can probably just slam Goose and be like, nope, no Zola for you. Or where they play their Wong and they can Black Panther. Okay, that works. Not For Long. Who do we play Spider-Ham against?
Spider-Ham would be good against opposing lockdown decks.
Yes, because removing Spider-Man, Professor X, and that kind of thing could work. Usually it's really Destroyed that gets mightily annoyed by Spider-Ham, but Lockdown works as well. Random Sort. Who can we play Scarlet Witch against? I'm not exactly sure if you can talk or not because you just got here, but... We're gonna assume it's a no. So Silvermint, who can we use Scarlet Witch against?
I feel like Scarlet Witch is a good example of a soft tech. It's definitely going to help with people who are trying to use magic, people who are using Legion, people who try to, I guess, soft lock you a little bit by funneling play into certain lanes. I think it would also help against a lot of Surfer decks, perhaps.
Yes. For example, Surfer is particularly annoying because if they win the Storm lane, then you're not allowed to miss on the Professor X lane, and Surfer is particularly good at impacting cards impacting points afterwards, so you're never safe on your Prof X lane. So Phatomation gets the most difficult one, which is Morph. Who do we play Morph against?
Something like Classic Hella. Or you know, when they're trying to fill their hand with large cards like Living Tribunal would have a lot of good targets.
Okay. I didn't have Ella in mind. I had Lockjaw in mind. Because usually Lockjaw at the end of the game only has all the big sixes he couldn't play during the game in his hand.
Yeah.
And so that's the idea of how do I win the second lane? Well, Morph is probably going to be a 6 cost against Lockjaw, so that frees up 3 mana, and I don't have to play a 6 cost myself. Not for long, you get an easy one. Who do we play Rogue against?
Ongoing effects?
No, because otherwise that would be the exact same answer as Enchantress, and I'm going to make it a little bit more difficult than that.
Okay. Iron Man? Ones
Okay.
that are
Yes.
beneficial.
Iron Man is the specific one that we want to counter because that's... I'm not sure if it's the best, but right now it's probably the effect we wanna beat. And there was another one, which is Darkhawk. Darkhawk is our natural counter right now because we play Thanos, so we naturally have a bigger deck. So usually stealing Darkhawk is extremely good for the same reason as Morph, 3 mana, and we probably win the lane we're playing it on. Against Tribunal it works, but the thing is Tribunal is not good specifically for you. So I would put Tribunal more in the Enchantress category rather than the Rogue category. Also because Tribunal is very likely to be played with other ongoings on the lane, and if there are several ongoings on the lane, might as well kill them all. Random sort, we're gonna go to Killmonger. Bounce works, but it's really hard to navigate priority against them. Mirror matches, okay, but you also beat up your own stones, so you probably have to play armor or something of the sort. There is one card in the metagame right now that you really want to kill with Killmonger, and it's extremely popular, I think. Yes, and what is the deck Nebula is played into right now? There's that, but I was just thinking Lockdown, to be honest. Not Thanos control, the traditional, high evil Lockdown. Because Nebula basically cancels your ability to Profx that lane most of the time. So sometimes you can Killmonger and then Profx the lane or something like that. Shadow King. Who do we play Shadow King against? Silvermint.
I think Shadow King would be really good against Death, Venom
Death.
sorts of builds.
Destroy, you mean.
Yeah, Destroy. I also think against Iron Patriot.
Not really, because Shadow King cancels the extra attack, but against Patriot it comes from an ongoing buff, so you need to cancel the buff, not the... I don't know if that was clear.
Oh, yeah. I actually get that one wrong all the time.
No, but there's a deck, it works pretty well. If you don't have priority, it's pretty good against Surfer. Because Surfer is an ongoing, you're going to remove all the buffs from Surfer on that lane. So usually Shadow King is going to be a -6 or something like that. And so that's basically a 3/9, which is as good as you can get. Phatomatition, who do we go for Wave?
Turn 5 against Bounce.
Turn
Or
5
Sarah.
against Bounce, against Sarah, yes. So Sarah control, for example. Okay. NASA for now. Do you understand what we're doing, NASA, or not? Do you want to give it a try, or do you want to stay out because you arrived in the middle of the exercise?
Right now, I kind of just listening. Let's go ahead and continue, and then I'll try to keep up and follow along.
No worries. So not for long. Who do we play Super Scroll against?
Super Scroll's kind of similar to Rogue, but when you're expecting more ongoing effects than
Kinda.
just maybe a Iron Man.
Well, if it's just Iron Man, I'm gonna play Rogue.
Yeah, Super Scroll is better if there's more than just like a
Okay,
single
so
Iron Man or a single Dark Pod.
okay, but then what deck is doing that? What deck has several ongoings I might want to copy?
The Thanos Lockdown deck.
Exactly, mirror match. Because you copy Dino, you copy Blue Marvel. Actually, you can copy Professor X, and that's pretty fun. Sometimes you just play Super Scroll on the lane, you're winning, and you just tell them, well, if you Prof X, I get it too. So actually, you play a 3 points card, and I play points. And suddenly their turn 5 can't be Professor X, and your turn 5 can be Dino or something like that. Random sort. Who do we play? Enchantress again. Darkhawk can work, but if it's only one, would rather Rogue. Mirror Match works, but Super Scroll is probably better because you don't have to actually aim for it. You actually said it before. There's one deck that is just stacking ongoings all in the same place. Tribunal, literally, like, their lane is Iron Man, Tribunal, Onslaught. Just Enchantress that lane, and there's... Well, they still have 16, but that's about the deck. Right. Silvermint, who are we going to Leech against? That one is tricky.
I mean, so I think Invisible Woman is the variable here because normally I'd say something like Surfer or Destroy, something that relies on a sixth turn, Miracle Round. But if they've got Invisible Woman, then in a way that's already kind of been taken care of. That's trickier for me. Also,
So, think
don't know if
about
I
the
can hear
fact that about the turn
on.
6s, if it's just one turn 6 that is the problem, we already have Spider Ham for that. So if we're running Leech, it's because we want to cancel maybe multiple cards. Or a card in particular which Spider Ham wouldn't reliably hit. Have any idea or blanking?
Oh, sorry, was that a question? I was just listening.
Well, I was trying to help you figure out the answer, but we haven't given the answer yet.
So the idea is if they need to pull off multiple cards in that round. I've seen people do like Wong Surfer combos in the last round. They hold that back. But again, that can be the kind of thing that's hidden behind Invisible Woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
So no, the answer is Ella. Because Spider Ham, there are so many 6s in the Ella deck, you're not guaranteed to get Hela at all. While if you leech Ella, well, worst case, you can touch Tribunal, you can touch Onslaught, you can touch Ella. You just cancel a whole bunch of 6s, basically.
Mhm.
And then last one is going to be for Pheromatician, which is unfortunately was first, so he gets one more. Who do we play Infinite against? So we do Invisible Woman, Wave Ella. I mean, a tech card answers the situation. Everyone can adapt to a lot of things. But then if they do this, you can always Enchantress, Rogue, or do something else to Invisible Woman, and Ella's gonna reveal. Sorry, I cut you off, Pheromatician.
Outside of Spider Ham, I'm having trouble to think of what Infinite is a tech card against.
That's actually the perfect answer.
Oh, okay.
Like we said, Spider Ham is a problem for lockdown. We're a lockdown deck ourselves. If people are coming at us with Spider Ham to counter Profex Spider-Man, let's get Infinite. And we just solve that, we win the second lane, because the 20 power pig will win the second lane. So we actually turn a problem into a solution for the second part of our game plan. Alright, are there any questions about all this before we go into a short break and then we actually do it with real decks, and you guys do it. Are we all good? Okay, so we're gonna have a bit of a longer break because you're gonna have homeworks to do. For those who want to do it live, like if everyone wants to do it live, we don't have to take such a big break, but if you guys want time to think about it, it's completely fine as well. I just need to find it here. As everyone checked the Conquest tier list, or are there some that have not looked at it yet, or do not look at it because they don't play Conquest? It doesn't actually like need to be Conquest. It's just a list of decks.
I've seen it already.
Okay, perfect. So obviously you're not allowed to pick Thanos Control because we just did it. But I'm gonna ask each of you to pick a deck on the list and break it down. So what is the core? What is the flex? What are the tech cards? So we're actually gonna do the reverse. Silvermint, which deck do you want to pick?
Let's see. How about Evolve Lockdown?
Okay. Random sort, what do you want to pick? Patriot. Okay. Not for long.
Where's the list at?
I just posted the article in the team coaching. But otherwise, the decks left are Stature, Serra Control, Unrevealed Lockjaw, Hela Tribunal.
I'll go Sarah.
Okay. NASA, what do you want to pick?
I can do Lockjaw.
You can do Lockjaw. And Fatamatician, you have Stature or Ella left.
I'll go Hella.
Alright. So it is 41. I'll be back at 45 if you need anything. Otherwise, you can take up until 50 to think about it. But if you have questions, if there are things that you want to discuss before, let's take a 4-minute break to just get everything we said. And I'll get back on this slide if you ever want to have a little help on it. And so the idea for now is to break down the deck into the 3 main categories. For those who feel like they can do it, if you can even break down the different flexible packages, that's awesome. Otherwise, if we're already able to break down the deck into 3 categories, we're happy. Alright, see you in a few minutes. I am back if anyone needs some help. Ooh. Oh, random sort. I guess in the flex when you said Iron Patriot is is very persistent. Did you mean Iron Lad? That's maybe the hardest. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna make you think in these sessions. I'm very sorry about it. But thanks for playing along. Alright. Who's ready to start? So we already have... Well, we'll start with random sort because they already did it. But then we'll just go through the list. So, Iron Patriot. So core we said Mr. Sinister, Patriot, Mystique, Brood, and Blue Marvel. I have a little problem here, especially with Mr. Sinister and Brood, because the cards are in the deck because Iron Lad is in the deck. So if Iron Lad is in core, these two can't be core. Like, the logic is we decided to switch to Mr. Sinister and Brood because Iron Lad could take their ability when she summons, and that makes like more 6 power cards. But they're not core to the Patriot idea. They're core to, if you want, the Iron Patriot idea. But then if you're putting these two as core, you have to put Iron Lad's core as well, because otherwise, like, that's the card that's impacting them. Like, you should go Iron Lad towards Sinister and Brood. It's not the other way around. Then in the flex, Invisible Woman. So Iron Lad is almost a better absorbing man. Well, first I would say yes, because 4/6 is higher than 4/3. And 2, Iron Lad takes any kind of ability. Absorbing Man only takes on reveals. Because Mr. Sinister and Brood are nice, but when Iron Lad doubles Doctor Doom or Onslaught, that's another story. That's an insta-snap most of the time for the deck. So, yes, I would not even say it's an almost a better Absorbing Man. I would say it's way, 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 way better than Absorbing Man. So flex, Invisible Woman, depending on hostility. It was hostility, or that's a word I don't know otherwise. Hostility of meta. I want to say yes, but really the whole point of Invisible Woman isn't just the hostility of the meta. It's a very flexible card. First, it makes it impossible for the opponent to count how much points we are going to develop, which is very, very annoying for a lot of people when they don't know how much they have to beat. Number 2, they also allow to change some patterns. For example, if you put Mystique first card behind Invisible Woman and you play Onslaught on turn 6, Mystique is going to copy Onslaught, because Mystique reads... is not popping out? The last card you play is an ongoing. So if Mystique revealing at the end of the game, she's going to copy the last card which revealed before her. So if your turn 6 is Onslaught, Mystique copies Onslaught. And so Invisible Woman allows that kind of stuff. Then we have Wasp, Doom, and Onslaught. We can put Ultron in there, yes. It's a 3-for-2 package. Yes, Wasp is flex. There are some lists which are running Shocker or that kind of things. And then the techs are Super Skrull and Shang-Chi. Yes, sir. Last part of the exercise. Do you have any idea why we're running Super Skrull and Shang-Chi? Do you have any idea which decks are pushing us to run these cards? Yes, a lot of people do it. This is, and my job is to be annoying and make them think about every single thing. All right, so now we're just gonna go from up to down. So first one is Lockdown. Silvermint, do you actually want to do this audio, or do you want me to read what you wrote? It's just random sort I read because they can't talk.
Fair enough. I'm happy to do audio. So I think core for Evil Lockdown is going to be High Evolutionary, because it doesn't work without him. And then Professor X and Spider-Man. Flex is basically everybody else. I tried to break it down into the subcategories. So for the direct support of the idea, I have Daredevil to help us know which lanes to lock down. Yes. Storm, because it does lock down even earlier. Yes. Iron Lad is going to be tricky for me, but I think since I could either put Iron Lad here, or I could possibly put him in the points category, since I think the most cards are in the points category, and if he's cloning cards, he has the greatest chance to clone points. But I still think he's direct support, because the idea with this is to develop points really quickly and also close off lanes. He would let us do either of those things, so therefore he's directly supporting the core idea. But I struggled with it.
That's a good way. Sometimes there's a category that always works as flex, is it's a good card. When you don't know what to put in your deck, sometimes you just want to put a good card. And when you look at Iron Lad in the deck, it's really hard to find any card that you're like, oh no, please don't copy that, except for High Evo. I mean, Nebula is not that good, but if you play Iron Lad on 4 and you copy Daredevil, you're pretty happy. You get Daredevil's ability. Copy Jeff, that's one of the things I think was done the most with the card. Storm isn't ideal, but this tier list was done before Legion, and now we actually want to play Storm on 4 if we play Legion, so that makes Iron Lad even stronger. Cyclops is a good card. The Thing, well, Iron Lad copying the Thing is basically the Thing, so I guess if we put it in the deck, there must be a reason. And Professor X or Spider-Man are literally the cards we want to copy most of the time. And Doctor Doom is just... It's a 4-cost, 14 power. If they printed that in the game, we probably would all be playing it. So yeah, it's just... I mean, there is like more than 70% good targets for the card, so it's just, yeah, makes sense in the deck. Like, some flexible cards are just like, it's good.
Sounds good. So then I think for the points category of flex, I've got Nebula, although she could also just be second lane potentially, but probably better points. Jeff, the Thing, although the Thing counts as limiting the opponent as well. So I think the Thing is actually a really useful card because it's double.
I don't know if you limit it in the same way as Cyclops, because Cyclops works over time. So if you play Cyclops on turn 3, your opponent will be enticed not to play there, while the Thing is on the moment. So the Thing is more of a punish. You played there, so I can reduce your power. While there are some people that actually like playing Cyclops on empty lane, because they tell their opponent, well, now you need to challenge with just one card, because if you play 2, Cyclops ruins you. So I wouldn't put them together. I would consider Cyclops to be okay in the limiting, but the Thing is just a points card.
Okay, that really helps.
It's just a 4/9, which is above the 4/8 threshold, which is considered high for a 4-cost.
Okay. And then I think Doctor Doom and Hulk are things that help win second lanes. Although in the case of Doctor Doom, you don't have to play him in the second lane. And then I think this deck doesn't really have tech, or at least things are better called flex.
Yes. And now the big question, do you have any idea why there are no techs in the deck?
A
little
tricky.
help.
Yeah.
It's in there.
Sorry, it's a little help. It's...
Do you see my screen?
Oh, sorry, I was on the chat. Let me switch over.
It is in there.
Let's see. Well, I think it could just be because the metagame is very unstable, and so it decides not to bother trying to counter specific scenarios, but instead just develop lanes very, very quickly and try to win those too.
In a way, yes. But no, the perfect answer is here. It's already annoying. Like, actually Lockdown is the tech. It's like, if you look at the list, actually, like, the tech card is Profex. If you Profex the Invisible Woman of a Hela deck, they can't play Ella there, and they're locked. If you Profex against Sarah, considering Sarah is low points, they're locked, etc., etc. So it doesn't run techs because the core game plan is the tech in the current metagame.
So the whole point is to limit the opponent and prevent them from developing their strategy. It all is tech, I see.
Yeah, like the entire deck is tech against every deck that is trying to be turn 6 explosive. And early in the metagame, because we're all trying the shiny new cards, and Magic was part of the new cards, Lockdown came in and was like, you guys want to play 7? Now let's play 5, and I'm being nice with you. That's basically how we went.
It's very, very helpful, thank you.
And so sometimes you're going to hear the term that is called a tech deck. So this is basically a deck which strategy is perfect for the current metagame, because it doesn't have to do anything. It's just literally the deck works against most opponents.
Makes sense.
Right. Who was on Sarah control?
I was on Sarah.
All right. Let's hear it.
So the core is pretty much just Sarah.
Ooh. I like it. All right. I want to hear the why, but I like where it's going.
Yeah. Well, Sarah is a card that enables you to just have a lot of cards played out on turn 6. And so what you want to do with that, how you want to build points, what tech you want to use, can be completely different mattering what cards are in the metagame. And kind of the only card that's going to stay constant is Sarah will be in the deck to do the Sarah thing.
Okay, I love it. Perfect explanation. Okay, so now what is flex and what is tech?
So there's kind of two groupings of flex cards. One is the Kitty package
Okay.
using Kitty, Angela, and Bishop
Yes.
to repetitively pretty much play Kitty and build up points.
Yeah, we'll call that the points package.
Okay. So the other package I was kind of just calling tempo points, but kind of low investment points are Sentinel, Lizard, and Polaris.
Polaris Polaris could be considered points because it's 3/5, which is on the higher hand. But currently,
Yeah.
it is not played as a points card. It is played as a. You could justify it as a tech, but it's not played for the points currently. Let's say
I
that.
definitely could go either way, at least in my head, that moving Invisible Woman is strong.
Exactly. That's the big reason to play Polaris currently, is sometimes against Invisible Woman decks, if you don't get Sarah, you just move Invisible Woman on 5 and you fuck up a MODOK or something like that.
Okay. So that just leaves a question of, so a tech card, if it doesn't face its tech matchup, and it still does something a little bit more than providing like low points, like Shang-Chi.
Yeah,
Doesn't
Shang-Chi
do
without a target is a
anything.
terrible card, indeed.
Okay. But because I'm just wondering, because Polaris still does 5 points for 3 energy, which is efficient enough, and has the effect of moving Invisible Woman, because it has the effect right now in the metagame, you would consider it tech.
Well, I would consider it an hybrid. What I was saying is more like you could fit it in both categories. Some people
Okay.
are going to tell you Polaris is just a straight up good card and I would play it anytime. And other people are going to tell you Polaris is exceptional right now because it moves Invisible Woman. And neither of them are wrong. It's just, why are you playing Polaris?
Okay,
Like,
that makes sense.
As long as you have your reason. And yeah, on the other hand, like, imagine Shang-Chi without 9+ targets. Who's gonna play a 4/3 in their deck?
Yeah, no one. Okay.
Alright, and so we haven't talked about. I think it leaves out Killmonger, Shang-Chi, Enchantress, Scarlet Witch, and Nova.
Yep, those are the last 4. The Shanks for big things, Enchantress is for ongoing effects, Scarlet's for both Limbo and Storm, and the Killmonger Nova package is for 1 cost.
So you put all these cards as techs?
I put the Shang, Enchantress, Scarlet Witch, and Killmonger as tech, and I don't think Nova would be in the deck, Nova Killmonger, if there wasn't 1 cost that would be worth destroying.
Okay.
So I put Nova in tech as well.
Okay. Yeah, you could put Nova as a consequence, consequence, like aftermath. Yeah, aftermath of playing Killmonger. Okay. Okay, I could go with that reasoning. Could Nova be points for Sarah control? If there were no cards to destroy with Killmonger, people have played Bast in the past. It forces you to change the list a little bit, like you don't play Lizard, and Enchantress becomes Rogue. But I think Bast is higher ceiling than Nova if Killmonger has 0 point, except destroying Nova. And it's also more reliable because you don't rely on 2 cards. You have it or you don't. While sometimes Nova, you're like, oh, I'm going to play it, and then you never draw Killmonger, or you draw Killmonger, and you have a super good shot, but you don't actually play it because you think you still have Nova, and then your opponent plays Armor or Profex, and you get punished. So most of the time, if it's just purely for points, I think Bast edges Nova. Otherwise, I agree these cards are tech most of the time, but Serra Control is a bit of an annoying deck because it exists forever, I think. Like, more than a year, at least. Like, I remember it was already in the first tier list that we were making more than a year ago. And the thing is, these cards were already in the deck back then. So, it could be a case that the same tech cards are always good in Marvel Snap. Or it could be that these are actually flexible cards to Serra Control. At least Scarlet Witch, because although, yes, Storm and Magic are really good, Scarlet Witch also removes a lot of annoying locations for Serra, and it's a flex for unplayable locations more than anything else, because Serra has no chance, well, it doesn't play cards to impact, like Death Domain or Rickety Bridge or that kind of locations, and because of the Miracle game plan, you can actually use Scarlet Witch to change them on turn 6, which at least makes Scarlet Witch a flexible card. Then Shang-Chi Enchantress, I've seen lists with Enchantress or Rogue, which means it's probably a tech. Shang-Chi has been in the deck, I think, forever, but it's also because people have played big cards forever, so I guess we could put it in both categories. And it's kind of the same logic for Killmonger. It's been in the deck forever, but there have been worthy 1-cost cards to kill, so I guess we can go both ways. Phantomatician is already doing it, but are you next? We already did the Iron Patriot. No, we have Lockjaw first. Who was on Lockjaw? I saw you unmute your mic, NASA, but I don't hear anything. Don't know if it's on purpose. Okay. Do you want us to come back to you when it's fixed and we just do Ella Tribunal in the meantime? Oh, it's logged off. I heard something, but it was a little bit of a robot voice.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, don't have really good connection,
That's
so
perfect.
I'll go ahead and type it in the chat, and
okay.
then I'll have you just go over it, I guess.
Okay, well, we'll go with Ella Tribunal since Phantomatician already posted his, and then we'll come back to yours so you have time to type it in the chat.
Sounds good.
All right, Phantomatician, you're up.
Yes. So the core, it's kind of running 2 small cores, MODOK Hela
Yes.
and Iron Man Onslaught Living Tribunal.
Love it. Seeing that there were actually 2 different cores, it's really good.
I've ran both independently, so I was very happy when it all worked together. Invisible Woman, as
But
we saw earlier, is a flex.
Before we go to the flex, could we do the same thing as we did with what we did with Thanos Control? Which was here basically you have 2 separate cores, but can you link them into one single idea? And it's a very simple idea.
Yeah, the preferred core is to always perform the MODOK Hela, but you can actually, if that isn't coming out of the cards for you, Iron Man Onslaught Tribunal on a lane will a lot of times take care of things.
Yes. So what is the global idea that is connecting both cores?
Yeah.
All right. I guess we just missed the question, but it's a very simple idea. It's just a gazillion points. It's just like there's a deck that actually found a way to win the game with 2 or 3 cards. So because we have 12, you can actually mix them. It's that simple. If you manage to have more points than everybody else with 2 cards, well, you have 10 to work with when others only have 4 or 5. All right, let's go into the flex.
Yeah, first, Invisible Woman, which allows you to get MODOK and Hela into place so that they go off in the correct order. Or even leave at least Invisible Woman, Hela, and then drop MODOK as your
Okay.
last card played. Magic, Electro, and Jubilee all are just kind of enablers to get the higher cost cards out on, have enough turns to play them or have an extra energy to play them or just cheat them out of the deck. Giganto and Infinite are just a huge chunk of points to throw down to either win a lane if you don't have Tribunal, or with Tribunal, of course, you're spreading a lot more power across all 3. And the only tech I really saw here was Echo, which you would probably play on the Invisible Woman lane to prevent a Cosmo.
So yes, but you can also play Echo on another lane to prevent Professor X. Because Professor X on an empty lane just says Ella is not summoning
yeah,
anything
that's a
there.
really good use.
And that sometimes, like against Thanos or against Lockdown, they wait, like they see you go in for Hela, and literally they win a lane with Prof X. Because Ella's not gonna summon there. So unless you get Tribunal, that lane is gone. Which is also why this deck is much better than the basic Hela, because Tribunal is a soft counter to Prof X. Okay. NASA, are we good or do you need more time? And Elobohe. I don't know if that's the way to pronounce your name, sorry.
Hi Dan, hi everyone.
How you doing?
Fine, working on the Thanos control deck guide.
You actually missed the whole part where we did it. I don't know if you see my screen, but we actually broke the deck down as an example.
Amazing. I think that these kind of coaching sessions are like amazing for Prime members. So hi everyone, and if you need anything, you can send me a PM or DM on Discord or whatever. So I'm surely gonna be doing my best to answer any question you have, etc.
All right, NASA, where are we? Also, while NASA finishes, the next step is I'm gonna have all of you play a few games, probably 2 or 3 depending on time, with the deck you picked and explained. So if anyone wants to have the game booted so we can start off on that, that'll be great. NASA, are you around? Because Lockjaw, he's not around. Or he left, or he bugged. Sad. Alright, I guess I'll do Lockjaw. Because it's actually an important one, because it's one of the biggest changes for the deck since the patch. So, oh, he's back. Cool. I don't have to work anymore. Alright, Mathematician, have a good one. And yeah, the last remaining 45 minutes are probably going to be gameplay. So wait, what am I sharing right now? Oh, I was sharing the PowerPoint all this time? Damn it. Alright, NASA, are you in a position to do it or not? It's alright if it's too complicated. Okay, I'll start on Lockjaw, and if you can do it at any point, just talk or write a message or anything. So, Lockjaw core is pretty simple. It's Wasp, Lockjaw, Tor, Jane Foster. Some people argue Chavez is part of core. Some people argue it's not. I personally think it's part of it because drawing Lockjaw and Tor makes the deck much stronger, and Chavez is actually enough points to be worth being summoned. So I'm gonna put Chavez in core, but I can completely understand if people are playing her as a flex. The card I'm not putting as core is Jubilee. I'm putting Jubilee as a flex, simply because there are times where Dracula can be played instead of her, especially when there's no Odin in the list, or when we're playing a deck based on abilities that we want to summon rather than sheer amount of points. So, amongst the flex, we have two kind of flexes, which are the points and the flexibility. So the points are Infinite and Magneto, which are basically amongst the biggest 6 we can find. There's Giganto, that's a little bigger than Magneto, but the ability to move around opponent's card is particularly strong in the current metagame, which is why we play Magneto instead of Giganto if we can. And then the flexibility would be Vision, Doctor Doom, Odin, and Iceman. Doom and Vision because they allow to play on multiple lanes at the same time, which is extremely annoying for Lockdown, so they don't really know where to place the Professor X, and we're able to impact Spider-Man, and we're able to play on Nebula while still impacting the other lanes. And Iceman because there are a lot of timing cards in the current metagame. For example, Lockdown is annoyed if we touch Spider-Man, they're annoyed if we touch Legion, they're annoyed if we touch Professor X, they're annoyed if we touch Storm, and Legion is not their 5. And we could go on for like several decks. For example, Ella Tribunal, just touch MODOK, and basically MODOK and Ella are both 6 costs, so now if they don't have magic, they can play both, etc., etc. Iceman seems to have replaced Spider-Ham since Spider-Ham nerf. We'll see. Both cards are basically competing in that last. Ooh, Nessa is here. Oh, that's a lot of core. Ooh, we disagree. I love it. No worry, Nessa. It's all good. My biggest issue is I don't think Iceman and Magneto are techs. I don't think the deck has any techs, to be honest, at this point. Because historically, Lockjaw wants a cheap card with a strong on-reveal effect to throw behind Lockjaw in addition to Wasp. And so it's a flexible card because you will almost always have one. Just it's picked based on the metagame, but there's always one. So it's not really a tech. Like, we're not doing it because of the opponents. We're doing it because of the deck, but picking it because of the opponents, if that makes any sense. And then Doom, Odin, and Jubilee in the core. Well, what happens to the high evolutionary deck then, which doesn't play Doctor Doom or Odin? If they're core, we shouldn't be able to do that. I don't know if you're gonna write to answer or not. All right. So while you write to answer, if you're gonna, who's able to share their screen and play? Because actually, a lot of people had to leave in the middle of it, so not that many people left. So if you actually want to take the deck of someone else, we can go be like in between decks. We had 40 minutes, which I hope would be like 10 minutes for 4 people, but I guess we're gonna go 15 each or 20 for both. Or Bohe can actually take the deck from someone who left. Oh, you said you were working on the Thanos control guide?
Yeah, but I am almost going to finish. So if you want me to play 1 or 2 games with any deck that doesn't have a pilot, I don't have any problem with that.
Okay, well, we can actually go with Thanos control as well. It's important to play it. But we'll keep you for the end, because otherwise you're just going to give the answers to
For
everyone
sure.
else.
No problem.
All right, so NASA, I'm guessing if you have connection issues, sharing your screen is probably a little complicated. So Silvermint or Not For Long, does any of you want to show us how good you are with the deck you picked? Where, if
I don't know if good, but I'll play Sarah. Happy to.
Let's go. So, because these are like example lists that we picked, you're allowed to change cards if you want, but you have to tell us why.
That sounds good. I'll share my screen and we can take a look.
Okay. So Silvermint, will you be playing Evo Lockdown, or will you be playing something else?
I'll play Evo Lockdown, sure.
Okay, perfect. Do you guys want to play ladder, or do you want to play... Because we could have time for 2 conquest runs, since we're doing conquest today. As you wish. It's a little riskier, but we could.
I think Conquest is fun.
Okay, so this is the same list. So are we going to play this, or are we going to change it?
Yeah, can we change a couple of things?
You have the mouse. You're the boss.
Yeah, so I think Jeff should be in the deck.
Okay.
Due to Storm, Professor X, Spider-Man being very common cards in this meta.
Okay, I can understand that. So what are we cutting?
So although Jeff is kind of teching for other cards, it's more or less 2 energy for 3 points. So I'd probably be looking at either Sentinel or Lizard, because they're doing roughly the same thing.
Yes, and also because they're the 2 most flexible cards in the deck.
The question is, which one? Would you just put that on personal preference? Or
so
is there one that feels worse than the other?
Personally, I've never felt like I wanted to play Sentinel when I drew Kitty. Ever since Kitty joined the deck, I felt like Sentinel I was never going to play 2 in the same game. And the other thing is, Lizard synergizes with Enchantress and with Polaris and with Killmonger. So most of the time, Sentinel is a 2/3 when Lizard is a 2/5. At least for me.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
Alright, bye-bye Sentinel. Hello little cute shark. Do we have other changes, or are we good?
I don't know what else I would recommend right now. I mean, there's a lot of things turning off locations, so I'd feel like playing Magic is probably not worth it at this point.
Well, you can already turn locations with Scarlet Witch. Oh, you wanted to play Magic yourself for an extra turn?
Yes, for ourselves.
Oh.
And I just don't know if that's particularly worth it with the amount of Storm and Legion.
I mean, I've done it at the start of the patch. It was fun. You Magic, and then they think there's going to be 7 turns, and then you Scarlet Witch the Limbo. But then everyone else started playing Magic, so I felt like I didn't even have to play Magic myself to actually do that combo.
Okay, so we'll just keep Scarlet Witch, and I mean this is fine. This has points and counters most of the things going on.
All right. Are we doing ladder or are we doing proving ground?
we can do Proving Grounds.
Let's go. I mean, if you want to play silver or gold, go for it, but I don't want to make you use your ticket.
Oh, I don't mind using my tickets. I have a couple. You want to do gold?
As you wish. All right. Yeah, I think 40 minutes is enough for two conquest games.
All right.
And so Bohei doesn't have to play. So he can keep his super skills secret for now.
Just for now.
Just for now. Don't worry, one day we'll have all your secrets.
You give me an idea. We can start like selling tickets for the Super Marvel Snap Team Showdown battles.
Alright, so as usual, try to get us through your thought process, and then we'll discuss if time allows it or at the end of the game.
Okay. Yep. Skipping turn 1.
Yep.
Just not Thanos.
Ooh, Bast. So does that gives you an hint on what you're up against?
Yeah, it's probably Bats.
Okay.
Might as well just start with Bishop. Bishop in the blind location, just in case if it's something we can't play into.
Yes, but now you're playing Jeff, so it's not as mandatory as before.
Oh, I guess so.
But I mean, I would still play it in the blank, but it's just we're not locked by the fact that we have Jeff now in the deck.
That makes sense. Oh, that's not what I was expecting.
So I think I know what you're playing against, but do you have an idea?
I don't think I've seen this yet, so not off the top of my head.
I would say it's a negative surfer deck.
Yep. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so they can play into Bar with no name. No, they just Bast. But
Well, they could have drawn negative later.
could have. Here's the fun Sarah question with Elysium. What are we doing? I guess we want to be back on priority, so maybe just Angela into turn.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you have plenty of time. Like, all the cards that are gonna impact your decisions are not in your hand, unfortunately.
Yes. Oh, well, that's Kitty. That's good. It probably would have been good to play Angela on the Kitty lane, but probably end up being better for us to double Kitty's power every time.
Yes, because if you double Kitty's power, even if you play her onto Angela at the end of the game, I'm pretty sure you'll get more points.
Mm-hmm. And I think we're just still hanging out to see what they do.
Correct me if I'm wrong then, but having Kitty before turn 5 with Shuri Lab reveal is like 90% secure snap.
Yes.
Okay. They also didn't get negative, so might as well snap here.
I
And it's
think,
a little later.
I think you can definitely snap them.
Would we just want to Sarah and Kitty just in case if they magic on turn 5 on Elysium?
Yes. Can you fit everything? Oh, you could have played Nova, because if they change Elysium, your Nova is gonna cost 1.
That makes
And
sense.
you know they can't do anything about it. Alright, so now we have information, so now we can adapt our game plan.
Okay, so Enchantress is really good because they're going to want to Iron Man.
Well, they have more. They also have Wong most of the time.
Probably don't want to play Nova on 1. We can play Jeff and Lizard on the Bass lane because we'll probably end up killmongering the Bass at some point. Or would you play Jeff here or nothing?
I would play Jeff on the Unrevealed. You can still fit Lizard on turn 4 because your turn 4 is still a flexible turn, and you still want to spend that 2 energy anyway. It's just for the slight chance that you actually don't draw a Killmonger. Oh, hello.
Bishop, probably Bishop on Kiln.
Yeah, that sounds okay. I should challenge it pretty well. They're so aggressive on the rogue.
They haven't negative yet.
Well, they didn't have a chance yet.
Yeah. I'm just trying to. If you were playing against a negative deck, we have Enchantress, and they only have 2 negative draws if they negative now. And we have Sarah.
I'm inclined to snap.
Sounds good. We'll give it a try. Polaris and Nova into.
I would have Lizard and Nova into Kiln. Because if they don't play negative, your game looks really good. If they play negative, that means they never feel killed.
Okay, that makes sense.
And also because if by any chance they feel Kiln, well, you can still use Polaris to move Bast in case you don't draw Killmonger.
There's no reason. Is it worth holding Jeff to go after Bishop on turn 2?
Yes. Because you don't like your deck. If you want to play every card with Superflow, you will. So this alone could be a snap against a Surfer deck.
Is it?
It could
Surfer?
be risky. It could
or
be
is
risky.
it negative?
It's both.
Okay. Is that where negative is right now?
No. Yeah, it's basically it's negative, but the Surfer cards are Surfer Brood, Wolfsbane, Mystique, Magic, Ironheart.
Okay. Let's be aggressive.
Yep. There's just one risk, but then we would demolish them. Is when they negative Iron Man and Mystique, they can actually play them there. But then if they play Iron Man and Mystique together, we Enchantress and end their life.
So if we drew Sarah this game, we probably wouldn't play it.
Why not?
Because nothing except Jeff could. I guess Kitty. No, nothing could go into Crimson Cosmo.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Unless you would already be ahead on Crimson Cosmo or something like that. But yeah, that would impact your play, so it's good to take it into consideration. Ooh. So I'll just give you the information about your opponent, because you probably don't know the deck really well. On Nexus, the biggest thing they can do is either negative Iron Man, which will completely demolish you unless you Enchantress it, but you also have to be careful about Wong and Wolfsbane, because that can create a pretty big Wolfsbane.
So we're also playing Scarlet Witch.
Yes.
So if we draw that, should we snap?
If you draw it, I don't know if you snap. Yeah, I like the Angela on Nexus. I don't know if it's if it's okay to snap just because we have it, but yeah, that means a lot of points. Oh.
Bishop, Kitty. We should possibly play Polaris here.
Do you see any card in their deck that you're like, oh, I want to Polaris that? Like, is Polaris
well, I guess
ability
they could play
important?
Zabu or Bast on Project Pegasus this turn, and then it might be worth Polarising it into the Nexus.
Okay, and next turn you could just Kitty Pryde Polaris for 4, so it's okay.
Okay.
You lose a lot of energy, but once again, you're not a deck that's really attached to it. Okay, so now we have 2 locations we want to Ooh, we might do something else with our 4 health. Oh, with our 4 energy now.
Yeah, we have.
So they have
Well,
4.
it's turn
So
4.
let's think
Yeah.
now. What can they do with 4 that requires you to Enchantress now?
I think the answer is nothing at this point. Like, Wolfsbane's not going to do anything. Brood isn't going to do anything. Surfer's not going to do anything.
Okay, then we have a turn. But that still means if you're not gonna Enchantress, you gotta keep priority.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you lose
So
priority, that's gonna be a big problem.
is it worth just playing Polaris middle, even if we're not pulling anything, to get priority?
Polaris, no, but
Or
Jeff,
it's
yes.
okay. So you don't think those 2 points matter that much?
Well, because they're so far behind, no.
Okay.
If Wong was on Nexus, maybe.
Mhm.
But they're not gonna match 12 on Nexus with 4. Okay.
I mean, it's turn 5. They haven't negative. We have Enchantress. We should probably be snapping by now. They haven't really done anything, and we can stop the best thing they can do.
Yes. And I'm still not sure we want Enchantress because this turn is Iron Man, and if you Enchantress Wong and they Iron Man middle,
Yeah, we can outpower that, probably.
well, at the same time we have Scarlet Witch in the deck. But now I want Scarlet Witch Limbo, to be honest.
We have 2 4s. Well, I guess Shang-Chi isn't. Maybe Wolfsbane if they play it.
Yes.
Any chance this is a Panther Zola deck?
Not with Bast in it.
Would we just play our Polaris out to get it?
I would play it on
Since
the
we only
left, but yes. It doesn't fit into any plan we have, so we just try it.
Okay.
I mean, it could be a Panther Zola, but usually Panther Zola isn't playing Zabu Bast, and actually, like, the Surfer deck is really, really popular lately. Oh. So now we got a debate. Where does the Enchantress go? Oh. Do we have to commit the Enchantress this turn? Decisions.
I mean, we don't have Scarlet Witch. We're 33% to draw it. So odds are we're not getting it. So we're going to be fighting over Nexus. They don't run Cosmo. So we might as well just Sarah Kitty Pryde this turn.
Yes, love it. Well, you know where you're playing Kitty Pryde, that's for sure. And then you can think about Sarah.
So, because we're also 33% to draw Lizard, and that's the only thing bigger than... Okay. I think we're still good.
Yes. I wouldn't play Sarah middle.
No, even if it... because we're probably not going to draw Lizard, and that's our biggest point thing, but we can move Jeff.
It still keeps your options open.
Okay.
That's the first
thing.
That
sounds good.
And the second thing is... You're gonna Enchantress that Iron Man. I don't think you're 1 or 2 points short. I think if your plan works, it's a blowout. If it doesn't work, it's a blowout the other way. I don't think it's gonna be 2 points.
Okay. And we're kind of conceding Project Pegasus with the Wolfsbane stuff because at this point,
well, the thing is, right now there's no conceding or no conceding. Right now there's just... We're playing to win Nexus.
Mm-hmm. And so they're surfering plus something. Hey. Well, that is our Lizard. That's only 1 point, so 3, 6.
No, you could still move Jeff and play Lizard.
Well, probably play Killmonger.
You can still play
Lizard.
Well, no. If you play Lizard before Enchantress.
Oh, Lizard first, Enchantress.
Yep.
Yes. Sorry, interaction in my head.
No problem.
This first.
Yes.
All right. There we go.
Lots of sequencing. All right. Are we gonna 10-0 a poor Surfer deck?
Let's see. Yep.
Okay, you're gonna win Project Pegasus, but that was part of the plan. you're gonna have a lot of points, but I think we're gonna have more.
Oh, I guess we could have Shang. I guess we didn't really do the math on.
Well, if you Shang, you couldn't Lizard plus Killmonger or Kitty plus Killmonger.
But with the Nexus, it would have definitely been more points because we were expecting silver at this point with the snap and.
Well, yes, but to be fair, first we're still 6 ahead, so we didn't need it.
I guess so.
Second, you only killed Rogue. And I mean, it was, and also, it was. I just feel like there was no need to actually do it. To be fair, like it was just better to get our point. We could have took a little bit longer, math everything, but I feel like we had the Enchantress locked, and the Enchantress was enough.
That makes sense. All right. Well, that was good.
Right.
Thank you.
Nice 10-0 game. All right.
Always feels good.
Silvermint, are we ready?
Yeah, let me share my screen. So where are we? Snap. Okay. So this is the basic list I've made. Oh, sorry.
No, okay. So this is not the list from the tier list.
Yeah, I've made one change so far. I removed Iron Lad for Shocker. I feel like getting a little bit of extra energy is helpful. I like Shocker because unlike Psylocke, you can then decide which turn you want. Let's see. I'm debating maybe getting rid of the Thing for either Sunspot or maybe Enchantress, but maybe then we're moving away from the meta too much.
I think if you're gonna play Nebula and Sunspot, then you're gonna run into the case where you probably have to play Armor as well.
So it's too many changes.
It's not too many changes. It's just it's a commitment. Like you're gonna move into more of a flexible deck rather than a pure I'm gonna lock you down kind of deck.
All right. And then what do you think of Shocker versus Iron Lad?
I have not seen much of Shocker, but I mean, if you get Professor X left of your hand like a champ, I can like it. I mean, Shocker is a very result-oriented card. Like, if it allows to get Professor X on 4, just like Thanos Control does, that's probably a pretty good idea. If you keep reducing Eye Evolutionary, you're probably going to be mad about it.
Yeah, that's the one that's always a bummer when it's High Evolutionary.
The reality will tell you if you're right or wrong.
Yeah, fair. I think if we're trying to do what Thanos Control is doing,
but I like the idea. I think it's a good flexible way to think about it.
All right, well, let's give this a try.
And the other reason, just to finish on that, this deck is not running Psylocke is because you have to play your Psylocke on turn 3 to get Professor X ahead of time, but you have Storm.
That's right.
Like, the reason why Thanos Control can do it, it's because they can afford to play Psylocke or the Stone on 3. With this deck, you have Storm, so you already have a 3. And when you don't have Storm, you have Cyclops. So they do the same thing, they do it differently.
Yeah, and I feel like if we get, Professor X, Spider-Man, Doom, or Hulk with that Shocker, we're pretty happy.
Yeah. Even Cyclops. Like, you get Cyclops, you play Cyclops for 2 and he's activated on 3. It's not so bad. It makes your Shocker virtually a 2/5. It's a lizard without the down side.
Well, it's a better test if we only make one change at a time, maybe. So let's go with this.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a good way to check how impactful is your change. If you change several cards in a row and you don't know, and the results are completely different, then it's difficult to assess which fault is it.
Yeah, and I feel like with Iron Lad, it's kind of a lottery card anyway, so I don't really mind trading out Shocker for that. We're still doing a lottery, but maybe a tighter one.
No problem.
Okay. So I think this is where I have a ticket right now. Um,
Well, there's no ticket in Proving Grounds.
yeah, I mean, I don't have any of the other
No
right
problem.
now.
No problem. No problem.
I did right before the session, then got caught by surprise. Let's see. Confirm your deck. Yep.
All right.
See how this goes.
So same idea. Try to get us through your ideas, where you want to go. Especially with this deck, try to tell us what's the plan over the next few turns, because we're trying to lock them down. So we don't want to just think about the turn.
Sounds good. So the Strange Academy is always interesting with a lockdown. I think just getting Nebula on the board right away is useful. It doesn't reveal that we're an Evo package, and also it starts the clock turning faster. Usually I'd put this on the right. There's maybe an argument to put it on the left just for the unpredictability, but I think right's always a good place to build.
I like Strange Academy personally because it forces the opponent to play on a location they don't have control over. But
All
yeah,
right.
playing onto Unrevealed is always okay with Nebula, because if it's an unplayable, you immediately get a big reward.
I like it.
Aw, can we move Nebula, please?
Well, there's chance
we
for
would
it on
like
its
to
own.
change our mind.
Yeah. I think there's no downside to getting Jeff out right now.
Well, you lose 2
Yeah.
points on Hulk, but that's about it.
Yeah. Would you put him on the left and then we can move him later, or would you just hold Jeff back right now and save 2 points?
Do you intend on drawing Storm next turn?
I can't control it.
I know, but because if you're gonna draw Storm, it's probably okay to play Jeff. Otherwise, you could pass. So you build Hulk, play Jeff next turn, and you just move on to a more high Evo package.
I like it.
That's completely fine, because now we have Jeff missing energy, Cyclops missing energy, and you just build up a big Hulk.
I like it.
And there's a monster Metropolis to reward you for it.
Yeah. Left sound good for Jeff?
There are really no locations. I would instinctively play it middle.
Okay.
Because I consider that the right is good. Like, I consider Hulk able to win the right on his own.
Okay.
So now I need to win left or middle, except whatever I put on left is not going to work. And I don't want my cards from left to be sent over to the right, because I already consider Hulk able to win this. So I need to build middle.
Gotcha. All right.
Oh,
So this makes me feel like we're heading for Galactus, maybe.
uh-huh.
Um,
So where
let's see. Oh, go ahead.
No, where did they play it?
Well, I mean, they could play it in either place. If they want to be the safest, they're probably going to play it to the right because, they have a 7-point limit for Galactus.
Well, the only card they have to be careful about is Jeff, and Jeff moves, so...
I think if they're trying to win with Galactus and they have a null behind it, they might like Metropolis just because that's an extra 3 points for null. But they're not going to get many points out of null right now. So I think maybe right with Hulk.
Sure. I mean, there's literally no good or bad choice here. It's a 50-50. Oh.
Oh.
So that's
Okay.
another deck.
Ooh. Alrighty. Okay, so we only have Spider-Man. I feel like Spider-Maning the left is good because that's about to be cleared out as a lane, and then we guarantee it for ourselves.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay.
You just have to be careful about one thing,
Yeah.
which is they can... you still play Spider-Man left, but they can still Odin their due to impact it.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay.
Which doesn't change the fact that you still have to do it. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
stuff is gonna happen.
Yeah, let's see how this goes.
So this feels like an old Hive.
Yeah.
So there's probably not Odin in it.
Well, so I feel pretty comfortable. I think, a Doom here, and if we move Jeff to the right, then we have a pretty good chance of guaranteeing the right, unless they play like a Shang. Um, let's see. But we also probably don't. Well, we can use Cyclops to. Oh,
Okay,
they could.
so the
What would
right
you have done,
the right play was move Jeff to the right, Doctor Doom to the right.
Doctor Doom to the right? Okay, yeah.
Because if they Shang-Chi,
Mm-hmm.
your Doctor Doom becomes the biggest card on the lane.
I like it.
And because they only have one spot, it's Shang-Chi or something else. Hulk beats something else, Doom beats Shang-Chi.
All right. I think with this one, we put down Nebula because we can get rid of the rocks on the second turn. Because we wouldn't want to play Jeff anyway.
Yes.
Okay, and that gets it building quicker.
I don't. Why do you play it right instead of metal, particularly?
I don't really have a reason. I think people are hesitant to play on the right a little bit until it's revealed, and so that gives you
Okay.
an extra turn to build it up.
Okay. Because
But do you think
usually
middle?
people play it metal because if it's an unplayable, Nebula is already in there.
Oh, I like it.
But I mean, the logic of people being reluctant to play on unrevealed locations also can work. Oh, that's bad for Nebula.
All right. So just pass here.
Yes. Oh. So have we seen any of the forecast in the previous game?
Mm,
Because we've seen Misty, so we can assume there's High Evo. We can assume there's the Thing.
Yeah.
What else do they have?
I mean, they could be running a lot of tech cards, but they've seen that we're not really using the things that can be countered. So why would they be prioritizing the Zabu? Maybe they're trying to make an absorbing man cheaper. I'm not. I'll
Alright.
confess, I'm not sure.
Well, let's just be careful until we have more info.
Yeah. So Jeff in the middle.
Yeah, middle or left. Just not right because you lose the ability to move it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna have to move Jeff.
All right. Easy.
Oh, do we
All
have
right.
to move Jeff? Because if we play Cyclops,
Yeah. Then we're just trading those points. I'd say. Well, Cyclops in the middle makes sense to me.
yeah, they have 2 cards.
Just neutralize that. And then we can either absorb it, right? Well, we want Jeff to stay impactful, so that says maybe move it, but once we move it, he's less impactful. So what do you say? Leave him there or move him to the left, maybe?
To be honest, I would have moved it to the left, but I don't have a strong reasoning for it. It's just my instinct is telling me move it, but I have
Yeah.
no idea if it's right or wrong.
Fair enough.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, they're trying to play tech. Okay.
okay, cool.
Hmm. Alrighty, so Spider-Man. Let's see. So it doesn't make sense to do that on the right, obviously. So then where does it make sense? Left or middle for Spider-Man? He has developed less, or they've developed less on the left, so that gives us more opportunities to control the lane.
So I wouldn't
Um,
Spider-Man at all.
Oh,
I would play the Thing. You have a Cyclops on board. You have a Hulk in hand. Missing 1 energy is a lot of points right now. Like, missing 1 energy is 4 points minimum. Cyclops plus Hulk. Plus,
that's true, and they're
you
probably
know
gonna
your
play
opponent is playing
right.
Doom, so your Spider-Man isn't that good.
yeah. No, that's right. That's right.
I would just
You're
Thing
exactly
left.
thing left.
Yeah, just set you up to be ahead on every single lane. Wow, Mysterio, Misty Knight,
No,
Wasp.
this is just a pure high evo, I think, with a little bit of tech mixed in.
Okay, so their Cyclops and Misty have triggered, which means the right card isn't. Oh no, it's there's Zabu, so it could be a 4. So
Well, unless Shang is on the right and they're expecting me to drop the Hulk there, I don't think they would do Zabu for just a single Enchantress or to get Cyclops off one turn faster. In terms of the debuff, I feel like there's an argument for Hulk middle and just don't contest the right, but also we could do Doom on the right and just hope we scrape buy-in points. It's going to be narrow.
it's gonna be narrow.
If they're doing a Hulk, then they can only win one lane with that. So I think Hulk middle or Doom right. Do you have a thought?
I would Doom middle, but I'm not sure.
Doom middle.
Because
I like
if
it.
Shang-Chi is on the right, you beat it no matter what. Oh. We were not beating that. So the correct play was what? The correct play was Ulk right. No. Yeah, the correct play was Ulk right.
Yeah, it felt like a trap to me. But yeah, that would have worked. All right. Well, I feel like now we know his package.
So we have seen Wasp, Misty, Cyclops, Zabu, Enchantress, Haiho, Doom, Hulk, A-Bomb. That's 9 cards.
Mm-hmm.
Wave, we've seen his first game.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
I think we've seen at least 10 cards. Can't remember the last 2.
So I think Nebula here. We can always play Jeff into Morag if we want. We don't have anything that benefits really from banking the energy.
Yeah, no, we want to play Nebula.
Yeah, get Nebula faster, I think.
And we finally have Profex.
Right? Been stuck without that for a bit. Okay. Well, now I'm glad we've got Jeff because we can hold the bar Sinister Lane and just slowly move things into Morag and prevent a Goblin.
I like it. I like playing Jeff on the right. Because
Alright,
it gives
and
you
we-
priority.
Yeah.
Probably. And then with priority, you can just Profex Bar Sinister and win it.
All right. Should we well,
You could, honestly.
snap it?
Yeah, I think.
All right.
Let's see.
Okay.
The strategy is there. Like, there's a plan.
Yeah.
We'll see how good the plan is at the end. Because we won't have much space. But we don't need much space. We need Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
There we go. That's what we wanted.
Okay, so I don't think we need the Daredevil. I think this is going to play out pretty expectedly. So getting Cyclops down just to start debuffing. Maybe the center is the best play. We build the Hulk a little bit that much.
Yeah, and then
No
you have to
real
play Hulk
movie
Metal.
I'm sorry, what?
If you do that, you'll have to play Hulk Metal. But that's okay. Yeah. No, that's okay. We can play Cyclops. Oh no, that's
Is there-
actually really good. Cyclops Metal is really good. But then we're gonna move one Jeff to the left. Because
Okay.
that's gonna put you ahead on 2 lanes and you really want priority.
You're right. Okay.
Oh, so they commented. Huh. Huh.
Okay.
So good for us. Oh my god.
All right.
You have 100% win.
Yeah. So you think Professor X in the middle?
No, I think Spider-Man in the middle. They locked their right and Morag is left. You play Spider-Man, they can't play.
Oh my goodness! I've completely missed that. Yes. Okay.
They're only allowed to play Morag, and Morag says if you play me first, you can't play. So they're locked.
Oh my goodness.
While on the other hand, because like this turn they can only play one card, so 100% has to go on Eternity Range.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a lot of space on Bar Sinister, because if they lock you out the same way, like let's say they play Professor X or something like this, you just move all the Jeffs to Morag and you slam Bar Sinister.
Is there any benefit to moving the Jeffs now?
No, because they can't do anything to Morag because they can only play one card.
All right.
That's very nice of them. Like their wave just literally gave you the win.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be blasted in the middle, but that's about it.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so now we move the Morags, or move the Jeffs.
Yep.
Okay, and then Hulk, right?
Yeah. Do you like literally your opponent right now cannot play?
Yeah.
Oh
It's-
wait, they can play if they have Jeff, which we haven't seen. Like if their
Even then-
12th card is Jeff, they can
Mhm.
play. That's the only thing they can do. They need
But
the
they won't-
12th card of their deck to be exactly Jeff.
Yeah. But we're already fine losing the middle, and they're not going to beat all of our Jeffs on the right with a single one.
Yes. No,
So-
because if they play Jeff, then they can also play on Morag because they haven't. It's not the first card. Like Jeff is going to be the first card, but Jeff doesn't care about Morag restriction, so then they can play behind it.
So do you still think this is the play, or is there something else?
I think I'm not gonna play around Jeff when I haven't seen it. I
Yeah.
think they just retreat and you get 4 cubes. They literally passed? Seriously?
Wow. Why did they even stay in?
Because they have massive balls of steel.
I mean, us moving Jeff was a pretty telegraphed idea.
Yeah, like it made
Maybe
me
they were thinking to win it with Misty, just buffing Morag enough. I don't know.
I think the reason is it's proving ground, so they don't care.
Oh, fair enough.
That's probably the one answer.
What's interesting is we haven't really used Profex even the time we had him.
Well, the thing is, we had a plan for Profex, which was get priority and lock Bar Sinister. And our opponent just beat us to it and locked it himself.
Hmm.
It's just, like, you're playing Lockdown against someone that is locking himself. So you don't have to just focus on the point.
Yeah, we're if they're locking down lanes for us, we just makes our job easier. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Fair enough. Well, got my
Okay.
screen.
Are there any questions or anything before we close the session? I can go back to the PowerPoint at the start if you need any refreshment on that. Where is it? Bing. Let's go here. Doop. So I'll just skip through it quickly. If there's any question that comes to mind, feel free. There wasn't much.
I don't think I have any questions.
Okay, I mean, if you have questions in the future anyway, the Discord is here for it. And unless I'm mistaken, we won't have any balance patch this week. So the metagame should stay pretty similar.
So next week, would it be something different because there isn't An OTA?
You mean in the session?
Yeah.
What's the schedule? Because next week there's gonna be it depends, because next week, so there's not gonna be an OTA this week, but there will be one next week.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I guess
So there's gonna be one
because
on Thursday, so next session will probably be after the OTA. We'll probably have the session on Friday or Saturday, so we'll either cover that, or it'll depend. Like, I'll offer two choices next week, basically. One will be have the session after the OTA, so we actually work on that, or have the session before the OTA. And today we worked on understanding the different decks and how each deck works. So we could have the follow-up session, which is how do we counter them now? How do we, like, today we use that information to play the decks. We could work on using that information to break the decks.
okay, yeah,
So I'll
sounds
just
cool.
put up a vote in the Discord. Whoever wants to have the session about the balance changes, so it'd be late week, or about more like concept theory stuff about the metagame, which will be early week. I'll probably ask the questions, I don't know, in the weekend. That's where most people are most likely to see it. Alright, well, if there are no questions, I'll wish you all a pleasant night. Thanks again for coming. For those listening on YouTube, as usual, feel free to drop questions. Please join the premium Discord and tag me if you dropped any questions on YouTube or come ask directly here, because unfortunately I'm 100% gonna forget to check the video every single day, so I don't want to miss questions. So feel free to join like the premium Discord. We have a team coaching channel and you can ask absolutely anything you want in there. Alright, well, session's done. Break.
Thank you so
Hey,
much.
thanks so much. This is
Good,
awesome.
pleasure, guys.